Grand risings all this morning. How are you? So today, just for right now, I'm gonna start with a collective poll for anybody that comes to this video at a later time and date, at another now moment, as time and space is an illusion. So at any point in time that you find yourself at this video, the information can be pertinent to your situation. With that being said, take a sip of my tea. And I thought that it would be, since we're navigating a lot of emotions right now, right? If I'm not mistaken, the moon or the sun was in Pisces. Something was in Pisces. Yeah, so a lot of Cancer. We got a lot of water going on right now. This is just, again, waiting for more people to kind of filter in. I went live a little earlier than expected. How's everybody doing today? Got some 333s in the chat. Let us know that you're here. All right. Obviously, got some music going on. Again, just pulling some cards right now. As always, this will be posted after we're done as well. All right. Rain. Trees are dropping rain droplets everywhere. I'm not sure that they want all of these. I can't say no to that. They said no. It's got to be all of them. Got to be all of them. All right. So first, they want me to start with the shadow card that I pulled from my shadow deck. So this reading starts with the Queen of Swords. Now, Queen of Swords to me is like the queen, like the master of the internal thoughts that tie to these emotions. So you have to remember that we are the balance to our emotions and our thoughts. So whatever we're feeling is eliciting a thought, and whatever we're thinking is eliciting a feeling. And that's your mind-heart coherence. So the Queen of Swords to me really says like, hey, and it was reverse when it came out. So I'm just gonna kind of talk about the reversal meaning. The Queen of Swords reverse is maybe you've been stuck in your mind and you have a lot of thoughts and you don't know what's going on, you don't know which direction to go, and you're feeling overwhelmed, right? So just take a deep breath. Like the biggest thing that I found, especially along my journey, that has helped me become kind of like, I don't want to say the master of my thoughts, but become one with my thoughts, is taking a deep breath when things become loud. By switching what I'm looking at, right? Because your thoughts are always there. You have the choice of whether you're going to look at them or not. So we just have to remember that, you know, we are the divine being observing the reality that we're experiencing. So having that divinity and having that sovereignty comes with awareness, and awareness is awareness of what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you're doing, what you're eating, what you're drinking, where you're going, who you're hanging out with. And sometimes that can be overwhelming, because as you begin to awaken, you start to recognize that the people that you may have around, or the food that you're eating, or you're not drinking enough water, you're drinking too much caffeine, too much sugar, too much salt in your diet, you realize that all of these different assets and facets of our life are actually what is making up your energetic field. So if we aren't aware of the ins and the outs of our own body, how can we be aware of the ins and outs of our own energetic system? So I know that's a lot for one card, but I have a few other out here that are kind of like allowing me to see that. So I'm going to go to the next card. And the next card that I pulled out was from my mystic shaman deck, and it's the Time Master. And this card has been coming out more and more and more as we dive into the Saturn energy, Saturn being in Aquarius, and kind of like um, the way that I've understood it in my journey is that Saturn itself, its rings um, are like a CD, right? So its rings actually create a harmonic resonance. It creates music. Um, so when I think of time and like what time has to offer, um, I think of what you're doing in this now moment, because what you do in this now moment is where your heart is beating. So that's the beat of your own drum. So when you understand that life is like a musical piece, or like a piece of art, you know, or like a song that you're putting together, you don't necessarily have to know a whole lot about music to understand that like they're different. They're just like cooking or anything that you do, it's alchemy. Everything is alchemy. Everything is energy. So everything is like a spiritual cauldron. We're all witches and wizards, so everything's a spiritual cauldron, and the energy that you put in is what makes up what's in that cauldron, right? So when I think of the Time Master and I think of like the Queen of Swords, especially coming out together, I'm seeing like, hey, what are you doing with your time? Because that's what you're doing with your time is what is generating thoughts and ideas. So spirit likes to experience new things. So if spirit likes to experience new things, would that not mean that humans who are made in the image of spirit, or you could say are the reason, are the middleman to both, right? When you understand that, you see that what we do with our lives is what creates a new world. So if we are light workers and star seeds, and we're, you know, we're indigos, if that is the human race that's coming up right now, shouldn't they also be creating something new with their life? Shouldn't they be doing something different outside of what they normally do to help elevate their consciousness? That's what awakening is. Awakening isn't me trying to make someone else see what I see. Me is holding my space, knowing and seeing what I see, and allowing others to unfold in their own time. And that's the biggest thing with time. It's like we all have our own pace, and we all need our own space. And if we give each other our own space, we can then move out at our own pace, and things move faster from there. So I pulled two cards from my Starseed deck, and I'm going to, wow, this is hard. Okay, so I'm going to start with this one. It's empathetic starseeds, energetic sovereignty, absorbing what is not yours. So again, kind of going back to that Queen of Swords energy and that Time Master, you got to be aware of who you're around, who you're spending time with, who you're talking to, who you're having conversations with. Remember that our eyes and our ears and our nose and our mouth all take in energy. All of them they take in energy. We really only have one thing, maybe two if you consider sexual organs as the other part, but like our mouths is what generates the energy out. Our hands can make things, but like our mouths up here where everything is taken in is the only thing that really comes out, that really pulls out the energy. So we just have to be aware of what we are keeping around us on a daily basis. You know, there's a lot of studies that say the 5 closest people to you are what you become. And as someone who is empathetic, sometimes I can put myself in situations and around people that don't necessarily have my highest good in mind, just because that's how energy works sometimes. Um, and so maybe you resonate with that as well. And it's okay. It's part of life. It's how you learn lessons, right? So the next card that came out was Star Ancestors. Hidden secrets, lost wisdom, look a little deeper. And specifically, they have Thoth, Hathor, Mot, Bastet, Horus, and a few others in this card, in the clouds. So, and then it's got the pyramids of Giza, all 3 of them. So the Orion energy has been coming in very strong, especially since we're moving closer to our summer solstice. Uh, and if you're not familiar with the Tolkien calendar, there's a day out of time, which is July 25th, if I'm not mistaken. And there's just a lot of energy that can shift in these times just because of the alignments. So next, 4 animal spirit cards came out. So I'm going to talk about the energies because a few of them have come out quite often recently. So there's definitely a very deep message here. Let's see what we got. And so something I want to I'm going to bring into awareness here is the 4 cards that came out are the 4 elements. So you have fire and air, and then you have earth and water. So we have the elk, we have the starfish, we have the lizard, we have the nightingale, which is really cool because nightingales are a songbird. So the energy from these spirit animals is harness the energy that is right in front of you, right? Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. You know what I mean? Maybe you're an elk. You're more of an elk energy, and you're not too fond of flying, right? But the air energy is about those thoughts, and the elk energy is about earth. It's about grounding. So grounding those thoughts. You know, you don't want too much water because that's too much emotion. You don't want too much fire because that is too much destruction. But each element has its own alchemical composition. It has its own way of working with earth and working with the human consciousness as well. So something that I personally love to do is I like to sit in front of fires and just, I'm not looking for an answer. I'm just observing. It's in observing that the answer comes. That's where the silence is. I don't look at the tree and ask the tree questions usually. Most of the time, I would just sit next to the tree and share a space with the tree. Eventually, you share a space long enough, the tree begins to speak. But it has to feel comfortable around you. And that's something that I think, and I'm seeing this from the 4 cardinal signs coming out of, like, it's time for us to start respecting energetic boundaries along with spoken boundaries. We shouldn't, as a human, we shouldn't have to constantly be asking for this boundary to be respected or that boundary to be respected. If we all actually understood our emotions and our energy on a 0-point scale, we would be able to move fluidly without having to ask or poke or prod or, you know, go seeking for anything, because the answers arrive in time, due time, divine time outside of humans' idea or humans' construct. So, you know, when we look at life and we look at the world around us, you know, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I see a lot of people that are running from something. My instant went out, so I was lighting it again. So I had to pause for a moment. But I think it's so humid outside that my incense won't stay lit. If that tells you anything. But back to the energy, right? Moving forward, because this is a collective reading, moving forward, like a lot of people are going to be learning how to balance the energies. And I don't just mean like their emotional energy, but I mean all of their energy. I mean their thoughts, their emotions, their anger, their resentment, their jealousy, their depression, the sadness, the guilt, the fear, the anger, you know, all of these emotions that a lot of us don't want to look at inside because we want to pretend like we got our emotions under control. And even as someone who spends a lot of time internal, like there's still work I can do, and I spend every day observing all things around me, and that takes a lot of energy within itself. But if there are people that do this for a daily, like for a living, like that are here raising consciousness, elevating consciousness for a living, and understand that every day they can learn something new, then wouldn't it be egotistical and a bit asinine for any human on earth to think that they know it all or that they have everything figured out for themselves? You know, I personally think that that is very egotistical, you know, and no one human has all the answers to anything on earth. We're not, that's not how we're built as a collective. You know, humans are one of the most powerful consciousness in this galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, but we have to work as a one, as the one that we are, in order for us to be that powerful. And that's why there's a lot of energetic shifts going on right now, because there are a lot of people that are abusing the energy and abusing the people around them, even if it isn't physical. Like there is such thing as energetic abuse as well, and that's something from nonverbal communicators that happens. You know, like if someone who is a nonverbal communicator chooses to have headphones on or chooses to, you know, put their head down and they don't want to talk to you, then do you actually have the right to break them out of their centered space because you think what you have to tell them is more important than what they're doing for themselves? You know, and I speak that from experience. I have a lot of people I have noise canceling headphones because I'm very sensitive, and I often have people try to talk to me and try to push past that barrier or that boundary that I have very clearly set. You can see that I don't want to talk to anybody, and I still have people break that boundary, push past that energetic boundary that I clearly set in place. And there's no fault of anybody, you know, and yet it's still a boundary. So like we as humans have a lot of boundaries we must learn in order for us to be the God that we are on earth. Because as long as we're trying to bypass other people's free will and we're trying to bypass our own spiritual work, then we won't get anywhere. We're just going to stay stagnant and locked down like we are right now. So, you know, when I look at the four elements, you know, there's a fifth element. The fifth element is spirit, but spirit is all four elements into one. So understanding five, we are in year five. So five is transformation. Five is change. Five to me is transfiguration. It's where you take the left to make it the right, and you take the right and you make it the left, and that's how you create coherence. You become the magician by balancing your own brain hemispheres. And then from there, you begin developing psychic abilities, which are innate in everyone. And whatever is your most heightened ability is what you're probably the most good at, but it doesn't mean you can't do other things as well. So just keep in mind, like, we we as a whole on earth are catapulting into a new time, a new age, a new way of existence. Oh wow. Actually, we gotta, yeah. So I shuffled my shaman deck, right? But this card was at the bottom of another deck. So the lightning to me is like, and you can see 3 up here. So 57 is 3 as well, the time master. So we are lightning, like you could see that as like the consciousness that's springing forth from the sky. That's like the gods reaching back to us and be like, hey, what's up? And then you could say this, right? You could say that we are divine beings. Ooh. We are the ancestors incarnated, right? One could say that. So I wanted to pull a soul card as well. Yeah. So again, I see all of the elements here. You kind of see the fire coming up from within, and then you kind of see it cooling out at the top. So it's like, what I see here is like us in all forms, our ancestors, our past, future, present selves, all illuminated as one being. And like, you can see the water and the fire and the air, right? And then the spirit is really like all of us. Spirit is the being. And like we're here to give and to surrender to life and to like maybe what our mothers have always imagined, you know, maybe what we think our moms imagined isn't true. You know, maybe they want peace and harmony as well, even though they didn't know how to show that for some people, you know. And I think that's something I've been picking up a lot of people are working on is forgiveness, forgiving not only themselves but everyone around them for whatever wrong they think that they have done to them. So forgiveness is not easy, but it is something that sets you free, because in my opinion, I don't ever forgive someone for them. I forgive someone for myself. I forgive them so I can let go, so I can move on, because whether they decide to do it again or not, that's my lesson. I know who to hang around now, right? So that's just a little bit of I guess it's a little pull for today for this Thurstea Thursday collective consciousness read. I think that's all I have. If you have any questions, please drop them below. Otherwise, I'm gonna skedaddle and continue with my morning. It's about time I do a little dancey dance. Alrighty, guys. That's all I have for you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining in. If you'd like to support this content, there in the description box below, there is a Patreon link, there is a TikTok link, there's an Instagram link, there is a donation link. If you'd like to book a session, there is also a link to book a session. You can check out more content on my YouTube and on my Instagram. I'm just getting into TikTok, so it's something that I'm still new at. So please bear with this old man. Yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for tuning in at any now moment. Can't wait to see you guys in the next now. Infinite love, infinite light, and infinite movement, my friends. Namaste.